Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another Monday, another Ask Amy. I have a question today from Julia, and I'm going to skip through some of this because it's a little long, but essentially, I'll read some of it. But Julia is doing better with seeing through her habitual behaviors and phases that she used to fall into, doing a lot better with that. But she still kind of has a little bit of a thing, and she's asking about how to kind of take that last step so that she's 100% habit free. So it's a great question, a really common question. So I'm happy to get this one today. So she says, things are going really well. I'm just finding myself in extreme shifts in my thinking. After I take one step in the wrong direction, going away from mine. For example, I'll be 3 to 5 weeks straight of pretty solid everyday understanding guiding me. So urges show up and I can see them and not have any worries about them. So she's saying she has 3 to 5 weeks of feeling good, right? Stuff comes up, it's not her, she kind of just goes with it. Wonderful. Then, like clockwork, I suddenly just stop caring to understand. I'll have a drink or eat or whatever I want and have 3 days of back into the old habits, feeling my thinking before I can see clearly and get back to home base. I always come back to home base, but this pattern, 3 to 5 weeks of clear understanding and then 3 days of being in the fog and then back to the understanding, feels really defeating. I feel like I'm doing so much better than in the past because I don't get taken to la la land for weeks or months like before. I can clearly see just after a few days. I just still wonder why the heck I can't see all of the time and not let the 3-day binge happen anymore. Am I focusing on the behavior too much? I don't freak out about it because I'm not consuming copious amounts of food or alcohol like I have in the past. I just get a little off track and don't feel normal. And she says, and I eventually stop. I see this coming out almost like an out-of-body experience, like watching myself being walked by the big goofy dog, which is a reference to a metaphor I've talked about before when it's like you have a dog that you're walking, but really the dog is walking you and like just kind of leading you around and taking you all over the place. That's the way our brain really and our thoughts and experience can feel. She says, finally, when I listen to your podcast and hear you and your guests share about your experience, I just don't understand why I can't be there too, with understanding every day and not getting off track anymore in 13% of my life. It just feels so wasteful when there are those 3 days that kick in every month. So, Julia, it's a great question. And it's one that, and having worked with tons and tons of people, as they're going from being really caught up in whatever it is, and it really is whatever it is, from anxiety, moods, depression, habits, addiction, it all kind of has a lot of similar characteristics. Being super caught up in that stuff to, like you were saying, where we're kind of just in it for weeks, months sometimes. Now, of course, in weeks and months and days and hours even, we kind of see the light, but we're mostly just feel like we're in it and being kind of guided by that big goofy dog. When that's happening most of the time for long periods of time, and then you start to wake up to this and your mind gets a little quieter and you start to know, oh, okay, this is what it feels like to really be me. Like, this is real, this feeling. And then it's like there's a bigger separation that shows up where it's like, oh, this is me at, as you say, home base. And that other stuff isn't. The fog is coming in, my mind is getting busy, however it looks to us. Those two states get further and further apart. And I can hear that they have for you. So again, you're now at a place where there's 3 to 5 weeks of feeling like, okay, I'm just in life and handling it. Everything's fine. And then that fog comes in for 3 days. That it's gone from the fog being there for months to 3 days. Now, I know I don't have to tell you this, and I know this is probably really annoying, but that is freaking amazing. I mean, that is a really, 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 really good thing. And it is a really, really, really good sign. It's showing you, Julia, that you are seeing something that's helping enormously, enormously. Now, I totally hear you that, yeah, you would love for that stuff to never show up and we can talk about that a little bit, because I think that's fine. I mean, it's natural, it's normal. Of course you want for that stuff to never show up. But before we go there, we have to, and for everyone listening, we have to just take a minute to be like, wow, look at what's shifted. Look at what's shifted. And isn't that awesome? And how did that shift? How did that shift from being lost in the fog in months on end to now being, maybe 3 days at worst? How did that happen? And I know for you, Julia, and for everyone that I've talked with pretty much, it didn't happen by us staying on some schedule. It didn't happen by us working really hard and being really diligent and really disciplined and being really hard on ourselves and using tons of willpower. It happened because we got curious about who we are and how our experience worked, and we got quieter. And we started to see that we aren't all that stuff. The dog can lead us around. It can suggest all it wants. That fog can roll in. It will. It does for everyone. The fog can roll in, but that's not who we are. And the more we just keep seeing that, get curious about it, exploring it, looking at it, talking about it, feeling who we are, like taking a minute to really fall into, oh, this is me. There's a quiet in there behind all this chatter. There's a peace in there beyond all this chatter. The more we touch that space, that's so clearly home. So clearly home. But we have to touch it to know. We can't just know it conceptually. So again, for you, Julia, and everyone listening, like, that's awesome. That's how you've gotten as far as you have, and keep doing that. I mean, keep getting curious about who you are and touching that space, because that's how it's going to just keep getting better and better. An interesting thing happens when we are finding change from things that have been around for a really long time. And that's that, this isn't a great way of saying it, but it's kind of that, like, we become habit-free. Well, we're already habit-free, but we see that we're habit-free before our body and brain catch on. And by that, I mean, like, just like you've seen, Julia, like, you kind of see, oh, there's a fog that rolls in. That is dramatically different than it was years ago when it looked like, oh, I have a binge eating disorder and I'm a potential alcoholic. I mean, totally different. So there's a fog that rolls in. Like, that's how we start to see, oh, I'm habit free. There's this thing that happens. There's this experience that shows up. And when that experience shows up, sometimes I'm uncomfortable and I do certain things, but kind of seeing, like, that's us becoming habit free. Now, your brain is still bringing the fog in. Your body's still reacting to the fog. Behaviorally, you're still doing all the stuff that you did, or at least some of it often, when that fog is there. And that's just simply because this is a machine. It's just a machine. And that machine is really well trained and really efficient. So it takes a minute, takes a bit for it to change. But we can change. I was just talking with someone in the Little School of Big Change about this. And she has anxiety. She feels a lot of anxiety, and she has all kinds of, as most people with anxiety do, all kinds of physical things that come along with the anxiety, right? Physical manifestations of anxiety. And she's had massive insights and massive space around all of this. And she's seen some change, some real change in her levels of anxiety and therefore her physical manifestations. But in her mind, it's never where it should be physically quite yet, because her brain and her body haven't really caught on. Like, it's all linked, it's all one. But I see this all the time where it's like people have insights and we see things, and yet our brain still says, hey, you still do this, right? Like, we still drink vodka every night, right? You still eat this way, right? And our insight, like, we're like, no, but we're still getting this whole brought to life, majorly brought to life experience of our body and our brain saying, yes, you do. Here it is. Go do it. And so it's like a little bit of a mismatch there for a bit. And I think it's just such a cool thing to look at, because what people will do with that, almost everyone, is say, what's wrong with me? Why aren't my insights translating? I must not have had the right insight. I must not have really seen anything that's helpful. I guess I can't really change. why is it taking so much longer for me than it does to all the people that you talk with on your podcast? Like, that's just what our mind will do, because our mind has very specific expectations for how it should look and how it should feel and how it should go. But our mind is wrong. That's the problem there. Not that there's a issue for you, but that what your mind is telling you the way it should be is probably not the way it should be. Otherwise, it would be that way. Our minds aren't too good at that kind of stuff. So just noticing, for everyone, listening to this, kind of get that feel for what you know and what you felt into and what you've started to really see as true. And then see what your brain and your body does and how they're maybe different, but don't worry about them. They'll catch up. First, we just keep sitting in what we know to be true and looking there as much as possible. So Julia, as you have 3 to 5 weeks of that, right? You're good, you're clear, everything just kind of showing up. Take it with ease, no big deal. And then you start to feel this fog roll in. Are you paying attention to the behavior too much? No, you're not doing anything wrong. But where you can start to look is seeing like, oh, okay, this is back. Like keep with that stance. Like, okay, this is just the experience that's showing up through me. It has nothing to do with me, because just even by the nature of your question, there's a little bit of a panic. There's a little bit of a, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not like those people? So there's a comparison, there's expectation, there's a little, this is wrong, this shouldn't be happening. Not true. It's just the fog rolling in. I get fog rolling in all the time. No big deal. But we wanna just kind of be in the fog. Oh, this. Okay, now this. Welcome back. Okay. Haven't seen you in 5 weeks. It's been awesome without you. Welcome back, fog. And you kind of relax into it more and more. And you let yourself, it's not a good way of saying this, but you let yourself just be in the fog and do the best you can. And then you look more toward the bounce back. Because, and I can hear it in this, and I've heard it in everyone I've talked with pretty much. It's like, well, I need that fog to not come around. I need that fog to just, why does that fog keep coming around? I need that fog to stop. Well, that's not on us. It's literally like outside, I need the fog to not come around. Not your job. You're not in control of that, and you're never going to be. And that's why it's so hard. That's why it feels impossible, because it is impossible. So it's not about, oh, I don't want that fog to be here and I must be doing something wrong. It's more about seeing, like, every human being I know has fog roll in. Every one of them. We have fog roll in, but we come to welcome it. We come to, if you can't welcome it, fine. We come to not fear it. We come to see, oh, the fog's back. Okay, I'm going to just hang out a little bit. And when your mind, and it's okay that it goes there, but when your mind goes, Julia, to, what am I doing wrong? I must be focusing on the wrong things. This is still here 13% of my life. Just know that's arguing with the fog. Like, that's you like this with the fog. Like, come on, fog, I'll take you. And the fog doesn't like that. The fog will stick around and fight back and seem a lot bigger and more important than it truly is when we're yelling at it and resisting it. So I know that might be an annoying answer, but it's all about kind of looking at all that's going well, and what our mind wants to say is not well or shouldn't be happening. The discomfort we feel in that isn't that we're right, that something is not well and shouldn't be happening. It's that we're taking our own thought about that, our own opinion about that really seriously. We're really believing, nope, this is wrong, should be free, everyone else is. And that's what the hard feeling is showing us. We're caught up in concepts and opinions and beliefs and judgment that look really real. And thank God, wisdom's gonna wake us up to that and have us not feel so good, so that we can see, oh, I'm back in my head, believing something bad about myself, believing I should be doing better or different. So it's amazing how far you've come, Julia. I'm so happy for you. It's just gonna keep getting better and better. The less you can have a time frame for it, and the more you can just kind of keep welcoming that fog and just being curious about it and hanging out in it, easier it's going to go. You're not doing anything wrong. So thank you so much, Julia, for this question. Thank you guys for being here listening. It's a great question, because really, habit change, any kind of change, it's never linear. Like that's freaky. Like when someone's like, oh yeah, I had this insight and then just done, and then it just got better every single day. I mean, I wonder about that. I see change all the time, deep and lasting change that really does last. But it's usually a little bit of, just again, because we see things and then our body and brain, they take a minute. Like they have to catch on in their own time. So the more we can kind of get out of this expectation thing that our change is supposed to be linear or look a certain way, or that everyone else has changed when they've changed, or they've gotten over a habit that they never have bumps in the road, it's ridiculous. Doesn't happen. Doesn't happen that way as far as I can see. So more we can see through those illusions, the better. So thanks so much, guys, for listening. I wanted to mention, I have a highlight series. I might have mentioned this last week for the Little School of Big Change, which opens on March 11th, which is like 5 weeks from now. It's crazy. It's really soon. March 11th is when it opens. But if you aren't familiar with the school, you want to kind of get a taste of what it's like in there. I've put together a short highlight series. It's a series of 5 short videos, 6-7 minutes each, that show you kind of portions of different lessons and things like that. So you can kind of get a feel for it. So you can see that at the Little School of Big Change /highlights. So thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you back here next week.